that being said, I do want to talk about Adam22 and the controversy, because there were so many questions and comments about Adam22 and his wife, Lena the Plug. So if you guys don't know and you're just catching on to the degenerate clown world, Adam22 and Lena the Plug are two porn stars, and he hosts one of the largest podcasts in the world, which is No Jumper, and Lena the Plug has an OnlyFans, and every single week on a Wednesday, they interview a porn star, and then they have sex on camera, and then they post it on OnlyFans. So pretty much every single week they're having a threesome. That's 52 threesomes a year, right? Very recently they got married, actually back in May, and weeks before that, you actually heard Adam22 in an interview saying that he would never allow his wife, or that she will never have to do a porn scene with another man because he was so rich. She didn't have to do that. Well, fast forward to July of 2023, and last week, Lena the Plug actually put out the first video sleeping with another man, getting banged by another man, Jason Love, who apparently is like a really big, he's like a really big porn star, a really big person in the adult industry. What I find interesting, because obviously the whole internet is on fire and talking about it and clowning on Adam, obviously deserving it because he's a cock and a clown. But I do want to, point something out. Why is it that this type of relationship or degenerate partnership is only giving attention, or they give people so much shit about it when she sleeps with another man, but every single week as they're participating in these threesomes and then posting them online to sell on OnlyFans for people to watch him have sex with his wife and another woman, nobody says anything about that. No one talks about it. No one cares. It's like they're giving a free pass to have threesomes every single week, but her having sex with another man is taking it too far. Does that make sense? I find the whole thing repulsive. Either way, I'm not excusing one or the other. I'm just confused as to why one thing is more degenerate than the other.
I don't think that there's any degeneracy. Right? I just think that men are obsessed with I think Destiny mentioned this when he was on our show, where he's like, there's this obsession with like the word cuck and like cucking, and like everybody wants to call everybody a cuck, and everybody wants to say like you're this and you're that. Mm-hmm. I mentioned to you earlier, somebody, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who was like, oh, you can't tell me that Lena is winning. So Lena recorded.
Who's Lena?
Isn't that the name of his wife?
Lena. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Lena.
Yeah.
Lena.
You can't tell me that that Lena is winning because she's getting screwed by other men or whatnot, and there's no way that she feels good in her soul with that. I'm not thinking that a woman who has threesomes with her husband every single week and is an open porn star is thinking about salvation, first of all. I don't think that that's their priority.
Right.
And this is why so often we talk about the importance of compatibility versus preferences. A man like Adam maybe a man like Adam in theory, because he did say, my wife is never going to have to shoot a porn with somebody else. In theory, he might say, oh, I prefer that my wife only be mine, and I prefer that nobody else sleeps with her, and that I'm in a closed relationship and we're monogamous and we have a family. In theory, he might say that, but the way what he practices is very different than that. Why? Because his life is very degenerate ridden. Somebody got mad at me in the comments today for saying that Fresh and Fit was degenerate.
They are degenerate.
You guys can get mad if you want, but any man or woman that's advocating for promiscuity and telling men that they need to sleep with 50 women before they get married is in fact promoting degeneracy. Doesn't matter if you're a Christian, a Catholic, a Muslim, Tahitian, a monk. Everybody's going to agree with that statement that encouraging the promiscuity of men or women is going to be, by definition, degeneracy. So when I look at somebody like Lena and people are like, oh, she's taking an L or Adam is taking an L, I don't personally, the way that I see it is I don't think any of them are taking an L. And here's why. By my standards, I would be taking an L if I was in that relationship, but neither Lena or Adam have morals like that.
Yeah.
So
They're both
what do they
godless.
care about? They're married. They got each other. They got their baby. So God's beautiful blessing is still shining down on them. They're millionaires. They've got money. They've got clout. Who told you that doesn't make them happy? Like, who told you that they don't feel entirely fulfilled doing those things? Why? Because they're compatible to one another.
Right.
If Lena wasn't open to having sex with other people or having him be a porn star or whatnot, then his podcast would suffer, because part of what he does on his podcast is that this is his old bit, right? To do this degenerate acts with his wife. So his lifestyle requires that he's with a woman like that.
Yeah.
So this the concept that the manosphere has, where every man prefers a virgin, that doesn't have any trauma, and that only they could have, and the whole nine, that's not based on reality. And we watch it because within their own community, they contradict this consistently. They called Pearl was making a comment about Adam, and she was saying that, like, oh, what kind of man wants his wife to do porn, and what kind of man wants to see his wife get banged by another guy? The kind of guy that does porn and bangs other women with his wife. That's the guy.
I'm just confused as to what type of women does he deserve if it's not for the wife that he has now. Why would, and this is a question that I pose for Tate Bros, right? Which I wouldn't put Tate and Adam in the same category at all. Don't even go there. But the reality is that, would you want your daughter to date someone like Andrew Tate? That should be the first question to a Tate bro who defends them. Would you want that? And probably no. The answer is no. You probably wouldn't want your daughter to date somebody that was once in the porn industry, who likes to have sex with a bunch of women, who thinks the material world is the world, who wouldn't necessarily marry your daughter because he wants to have multiple wives, multiple children. And hey, props to him and whoever wants to live the lifestyle, you're free to do so. But would you, as a man, want that for your daughter? Now, I don't know the relationship between Lena and her family, but I can't really think that
it's a healthy
one, and somebody that would be proud of their daughter spreading her cheeks on OnlyFans for the world to see. I think it was actually pretty disturbing. I called Bella and I said, it's so sad to hear that a woman married her pimp, because that's who he is. Adam22 is Lena's pimp. I don't know how much money they got paid. I don't know if there's some sort of back end transaction. Right. I think the saddest part it's going to be their daughter. They have a very young daughter. She's like 2 years old. She's gonna grow up at some point. She's going to be out in the world. People are going to talk about this. So if you hear Adam talk about how they're going to break this down to their daughter, I think he's like, at some point we're going to be like, oh, isn't mommy beautiful? Like, look, mommy's a model. There's so many people that like mommy's pictures on the internet. And, oh, she does like a little bit of lingerie and she does this. So they're basically going to groom their child into accepting that the mom is a porn star. And a prostitute, for that matter. Well, not a prostitute, but yeah, porn star. It's just all around disturbing. But at the end of the day, I'm not really sure what other type of women he deserves if it isn't her.
It's a conversation that we have consistently. It is what they deserve. It's the same thing like the men in the manosphere that say that all women are hypergamous and that they're all gold diggers. The size of the shovel is just different or some stupid shit like that. It's what it is that they say. But then at the same time, they value themselves not by their integrity or their character or how they show up as a man and being able to they put their value in whether or not they drive a Bugatti, whether or not they have access to a lot of women, whether or not they've got over $1 million, whether or not they're in Dubai. Like, these are the things that they value in themselves. So then if that's what you value in yourself, your Bugatti and your millions, then don't be shocked when the women that you come across also value you for that, because that's what you're working on. That's where you're putting your energy and your effort into, is to having more Bugattis, having more millions, having more Rolexes. So don't be shocked when the women that you come across are impressed by exactly what you've been working on, because it's not your character, it's not your dignity, it's not your connection with God, it's these materialistic things. So what ends up happening? These men end up attracting the very women that they claim not to want.
Yep.
Because those are the women that value that. I probably should have been. Well, I'm married to a lovely man, so I'm not gonna say that. But during my 20s, it was a turnoff to me to have men. You know that in Miami, that's so often. Like, they'll purposely leave out the key of the car that they drive, or they'll purposely take out
they'll come with a car that's not theirs, right? They'll rent a Lambo for a day for $1,000 just to show off, and they don't even have 1,000 in the bank.
Or when they go out to the club and they take out the wad of cash, and then they got to put all of the hundreds in the outside before they can get to the smaller bills. Like small things like that just growing up in the city, you see men showing off their money. And I think I'm a good girl. Maybe I don't know. Maybe some incels on the internet that don't know me might disagree, but I think that I was always a good woman.
We're all little ladies. We're just all little ladies.
Just an old little lady. But I remember that it was such a turnoff to me to see a man engage in this behavior where they felt that they could grab my attention with material things and with money, because it made me feel cheap. And because it made me feel cheap, it made me reject it. So that kind of man could have been interested in me, but I, a good woman that did not want him for his money, was turned off by his behavior. Who do you think was turned on by that kind of behavior? The women that were excited to see the $100 bills on the outside of the bank, or the women that were like, fuck it, I'm just going to get into the Lambo for the first day and I don't care. So it ends up being self-detrimental to their own dating value, to their own dating market value, because what they put emphasis on is the things that are only going to be valued by the very women that they don't like. Which I think is, again,
Vivienne says they pay 50-50. She said I could stay home and you pay. He told her, nah, go get the money. So are you talking about Lena and Adam? Vivienne?
Why? This guy's like, so y'all aren't gold diggers? No, we're not. A lot of women.
No, unfortunately, a lot of people.
We're not. We're here.
Unfortunately, we're not.
We pay for our own fucking studio. You think that we couldn't have? We were gold diggers, like some fucking old ass rich Republican guy that would just want to pay for our studio time because we're two Latinas from Miami. Right. We could have had that. Like, we pay for our own shit. No, we're not gold diggers. I'm married to a carpenter, a humble man. We're not. And I want to go back to something that I brought up in the last episode that's important. A lot of you need to pick up a dictionary and look at what hypergamy actually means. Hypergamy isn't always related to money. I gave the example last week and I'll give it again. Hypergamous to me was that my husband came from a family that was married. Both of his parents were married. His grandparents were married. No one in his family has ever gotten divorced. I come from a broken home. To me, it was hypergamous that because people that come from a dual family, from a dual parent household, tend to be better off in life, tend to be better rounded, tend to want to work on their marriages, tend to want to be better husbands. It was hypergamous of me to go and marry my husband thinking that there was value in it for me because he came from a two-parent household. That was very much hypergamous and not tied to money. So you guys need to pick up a dictionary on what hypergamous actually means. Yes, women are hypergamous by nature, as are many female creatures in the animal kingdom seeking safety from their male partners. The problem is that biology pisses you guys off and you're resentful towards women for having the submissive role that requires you guys to step up as leaders.
Putting the bigger bills on the outside of your money roll is just more practical. I get that some people want to do that for God, but some of these can just turn into a witch hunt. I don't understand that, Nathan. But I do want to say, who was it that got divorced? So, moving on.
Are we done? Are we done with Adam? There was so much to say. What are your thoughts, guys, on Adam? Would you guys let your wife have sex with a random person on the internet? I'm not thinking that most people would, but again, it all goes back to compatibility and your lifestyle.
I mean, look at the situation that Tate is in, right? The way that he was luring in this women was by doing the lover boy method. So he was technically first trying to date or pretending that he wanted to date these women, fuck these women, and then basically convince them, if you want to be with me, you're gonna have to start working with me. And what does working with me entail? You're gonna have to start doing porn on camera. You're gonna start doing OnlyFans. So I think a lot of times people don't realize how these men are putting themselves in the situation. I just had a friend, haven't seen him in a couple months. I just saw him 3 weeks ago. He said he was having the worst week of his life. He had been depressed. He didn't want to eat. He's now seeking legal counsel, which I help him get legal counsel, and you'll never guess why. Really, really nice guy, business owner, makes a ton of money, young, 27 years old, and he was engaged with an older girl. She was 34 and he was 27. She moved to Miami for him. Long story short is that they got engaged, and months later, he ended up breaking off the engagement with this girl. She had to go back to Texas. Now, immediately upon ending the relationship with his fiance, that they had been together for 5 years, he got a new girlfriend, a very liberal, free-spirited girlfriend. And he fell for this girl mostly because she was what he perceived to be more attractive than his ex-fiance, who was more sexual, who was funner, who was I'm not sure. I think she was younger than the fiance, but not younger than him. Long story short is that she ended up being a psycho person who bamboozled him into moving to California, into first moving to like a random beach in the middle of nowhere, then like a forest in the middle of nowhere, and verbally abused them, physically abused them as well. And when he left her, because he couldn't take it anymore, the horrible situation that he was in, she proceeded to try to ruin his life.
Shocking.
And the way that she wants to ruin his life is by defaming him and claiming that she was raped and horrible, horrible things. So now he's in the process of hiring a lawyer because she emailed his entire company, including the females, investors, every single employee at his company, alleging that he is a rapist. And these are the situations that good men, because he is a good guy, he may be a little bit retarded, but he's a good guy. And these are the situations that men put themselves in. You had a good, and I told him this, I said, you had a good girl on your side, right? That you wasted her time knowing that she was older, first of all, proposed to her, made a commitment to her, and then you end up breaking up with her. And then you go for the crazy psychotic girl who's just you perceive to be hotter, and you want to have sex and fun, and we had sex 8 times a day is what he said. We had sex so many times a day. And she tries to ruin your life. Now she's trying to ruin your life. Now every single girl and person in your company got an email about fake rape allegations. And now we're looking into getting a very expensive lawyer. I mean, it's just a fucking shit show.
But you know who doesn't have to worry about fake rape allegations? You know who doesn't have to worry about fake human trafficking allegations?
Anthony Cavazza.